Okay? Okay. Saluton kai bonvenon. No, sorry. It's going to be an English lecture tonight. So, and it will also be translated into German and Danish. So, but as you all know, we are going to, in the future, create a huge international center here in Klint. And maybe by then, we will all talk Esperanto. I don't know, but there will be a new world language. And actually, right now, we are working on the program for next year, and we are trying to make even more international, more deep things for the international weeks, you could say. So, well, watch out for the program, and we're hoping for even more international things next year. So, tonight I'm going to talk about cooperation with our microcosmos. And we heard already this morning a little bit about all the living beings that we have inside our body. So it's actually a whole universe that we have and that we should take care of. So, of course, today we live in a society with a health trend. People do so many things for their health. They do exercises, and there are many different diets today. And people do not really agree. Some say that you should eat like a Stone Age man, and some people say you should eat only fruit. And there are so many different things today when it comes to food. And it seems like science cannot really understand the best thing for us. And people also do lots of mental training and yoga and meditation. So there is really this health trend in our society. And then we should think that, shouldn't people be very healthy then? Isn't it like everybody should feel joy and happiness all the time? Well, instead we know that there is also a growing demand for health care. And we have to educate so many new doctors and nurses, and so many people spend all their lives working in this medical, Medicare and so on. And we have to build all these hospitals. So there seems to be something lacking here. Even though we are trying to get healthy and we have all this health care, people get sick. So why is it that we become sick, although we are really trying to stay healthy? Well, to understand that, we have to understand that we are in a constant change, and we are right now very rapidly changing from being animals to becoming real human beings. And we saw this symbol already this morning, and we heard that we are on this journey from being minerals, plants, animals. And right now we are here, and we are at the end of the animal kingdom. And our body is still like an animal body in a way, but we have also evolved. We are not Stone Age people any longer. We have more refined thoughts and feelings. And actually also our body is constantly changing. So what once was good for our bodies is not so good any longer. But still we keep on to old traditions. And because of these old habits, we actually get sick. But when we get sick, it's a kind of signal from the universe and from our microcosmos, from all our microbeings. They are telling us there is something wrong. You are not on the right course. You have to redirect. You have to do something in a new way. So we could be very thankful also to all the diseases we get, because they are actually helping us to get on the right track again. So, where are we today? Martinus calls us terrestrial human beings. So we are evolving towards being real human beings, and with a Christ consciousness, which means that we are in a rapid change from animal to human. And still we cling a bit to the old traditions of eating. We still have the instincts. We have trained those instincts for a long time. So very often we react with anger, we are irritated, we feel guilty, we are sad. And all of these feelings, they belong so much to the past. And when we let them be in us too much, we cannot hold them any longer in a good way. And we might get depressed, we have anxiety, we get ill. So it is hard work to change from being an animal to a human being, but we do it step by step. So in the past, we were just concentrating on self-preservation to take care of ourselves and our families. And we cannot do that any longer, says Martinus, because we are more refined, we are more humane today, and we are training on neighborly love. So if we, today's society is very much based on capitalism and many things that are actually very hard on our body. So we have to slowly train to get into a more loving way. So we get out of balance, and then we get ill, and then we sort of change our course, and we get on the track again. And Martinus says, for example, we cannot tolerate a meat diet any longer. And of course, most people on this planet, they think that you have to eat to stay healthy. But it's actually the other way around. We have to drop that. And we cannot stand primitive thoughts either any longer. So then, who are we? Well, we also heard a little bit this morning about our superconsciousness, the I, which is the point of stillness inside of us, which I refer to when I say I do, I think, and so on. And then we have our faculty to create an experience. And this is the place where we have our talent kernels. So gradually we learn different things and our talent kernels grow. And the superconsciousness, that is something that we always carry with us. So we carry it with us when we die, we bring it on to the next lifetime. And when it comes to the body, it also means that I create talent kernels for having a healthy body. So for example, if I'm smoking and I'm destroying my lungs in one lifetime, then I might also destroy the talent kernels for building up good lungs in the next lifetime. So maybe then I'm born and already as a child I get asthma or bronchitis or difficulties in this area. So we see what we do in one lifetime, it very much affects also the health in the coming lives. And then, of course, we also have our bodies, and we normally think that we have a physical body, and of course we have. But we also have other bodies. We have bodies of feeling and intelligence. And they are also very important for us because we are becoming more emotional, more intelligent. So of course we must feed our physical body, but we must also feed our mind. We must be creative. We must do so many different things today to keep healthy. So just eating is not enough. Well, when people get sick, there is a misunderstanding, I think. So maybe someone has a heart attack, and you might think that is the point when the people got sick, when he or she got his heart attack. But that is just the effect of what has been going on for a long time. So maybe this person has been eating bad food, for example, or having very angry thoughts. And that might have been going on for years, for lifetimes. And then suddenly we have the heart attack. And of course, today we have all kinds of medical treatments and pills and surgery and so on. And of course, I'm also very thankful for that. We all know if we have pain, if you have tooth pain, for example, I'm very grateful that I've been able to take a pill and get some relief from that. But most of the medication you can get from the hospitals and doctors today, they don't go to the root, to the cause of the disease. They can sort of treat the symptoms, but the root is still there. And as I said, the root is actually that we come from the animal kingdom and we are who we are, and we slowly have to change that. So step by step, we need to get new habits, to learn new ways of eating and, well, doing exercise and so on. And we have to do that together with our body. We need to have more communication with our body, because our body and our microbeings, they are constantly trying to communicate with us. When we have pain, when we have discomfort, when there is something out of balance in the body, then they are sort of shouting to us, there is something wrong, come on. And then you wonder, I have this pain, I have this discomfort, what is happening? Because you can't really talk to the microbeings because they are in spirals below your own spiral. You can't talk to them in the way we can talk to each other. But they are constantly talking to us, and throughout our development, we will learn to be more sensitive to what they are telling us. And we can also pray and ask for help. We can also use our mind and visualize our body and go into the body. So we will be more sensitive to our microcosmos and our microbeings. And we will learn how to communicate with them step by step. Because what microbeings want to live in my body? Well, the microbeings that are at the same wavelength as I am. So if I'm for example, drinking alcohol, then I will get lots of microbeings in my body who likes alcohol. And they will tell me all the time, drink more, drink more. And of course then it's very difficult to stop drinking. And then if I stop drinking, I will have this craving for alcohol because they are shouting, bring me alcohol. So it is very difficult to break your habits. It's something you have to use all your willpower if you have an addiction to alcohol or drugs, for example. But it is possible. And in the same way, when I eat more vegetables and fruit, I will have more microbeings in my body who are shouting, bring me fruit. So then I will eat more fruit, and I feel I will get even more healthy. So we can, step by step, learn better habits. And this symbol, the principle of life units, we can see that we could think of this as a human being, the whole with its eye, its faculty, and its body. And here we have the different organs. Here could be the lungs and the heart and the stomach and kidneys and so on. And they all have the same basic analysis. And if we go even further down here, we can see in the heart, for example, we can see it's built up of cells. And they also have the same analysis. So it's the same principle repeated over and over again. And what we have to understand is that the organs, the cells, the atoms, the electrons and so on, they all live in our body. They have their life there. They experience joy and sadness and good things and bad things. When I'm smoking, it's like I creating an environment for them which is polluted. It's like living in a city with a lot of pollution. If I'm sleeping well, eating good food, being happy, then I'm creating an environment that is like a wonderful day by the sea here in Klint, for example. So the things I do to my body will create the environment for them, and they cannot escape. They are stuck in my body. They actually have to move me with me here on the stage. So I am responsible for them. So in a way, I'm like a god for my own micro-beings. And we know that we should develop neighborly love for all of our human friends and animals and plants. But we must also more and more get into contact with our micro-beings and understand that they also need our love and attention and good treatment from us. And if we look at a cell, for example, it's so complicated. It's like you have the kernel of the cell. There you have all the decisions being made. It's like a government of the cell, and then it sends out messages to different parts here, what to produce and how to clean the cell, and well, it even has a little tail here that makes it possible to move a bit. But it's like an animal, or it's like a society, you could say. So it's really alive. And we cannot really imagine the kind of life they live there and what they experience. But it is life, and it's similar in some ways to what we go through. So we are going to talk a little bit more about food now. And what Martinus says about food is this. So present terrestrial mankind, which is otherwise to a very great extent modern or up-to-date, is thus within the area of nutrition in reality out of date or old-fashioned. So just remember, we are old-fashioned when it comes to food. Or if we look at the world, because I think here with the vegan food we get in Klint, we are becoming a bit modern, actually. But people, they hold on to old ways of eating. But we are not adapted any longer to eat meat. In our evolution from mineral, plant, animal, we have reached this stage now, the end of the animal kingdom. And it was a time when we had more coarse bodies, we had an animal body. Think of a lion, for example. It has very strong stomach that can digest. It can just eat raw meat, and it's good for the lion. It's nothing wrong for the lion to eat that. But we have come very far from being a lion, and our digestive system is not suited any longer for meat. So when we eat that, we don't have really the right acids and enzymes for digesting it, which means that it takes a lot of our energy when we're processing meat. And it also there is also a lot of killing when it comes to meat eating. And we have also evolved a lot from primitive man who wanted to hunt and they wanted to kill, or they wanted to be like, think of when we were Vikings, we really enjoyed killing and dying in a war or something like that. But we don't have those minds any longer. Most people, even if they eat meat, they cannot slaughter an animal any longer. So we are more refined, and we also need more fine food. And of course, that is fruit and vegetables and plant-based food. And Martinus, he has made this symbol, and I won't go into all the details because it's a bit complicated, but he has shown the different stages when it comes to nutrition. So here is the stage where we eat meat, and meat has this vibration, a very strong vibration. So this is the animal stage when we eat meat. And here's the stage where we eat vegetables, plants, and fruit. And the vibration is not so strong, and it's more of the same wavelength as we are. It's not overwhelming for us to eat plant-based. We can assimilate that into our bodies. Because when we eat meat, or whatever we eat, we really need the life units that can come into our body and continue to live there. So not all life units can do that. And it means that in the digestive process or by cooking, we kill a lot of the more coarse life units to get to what is red here, what Martinus calls B life units, which are really what is alive and can go on living in our bodies. So eating meat means a lot of killing the animals, but once you have the meat, you're also killing the organs, the cells, and so on, until you get to a level in the spiral cycles where we can actually assimilate it as nutrition. But when it comes to plant-based food, then there is not so much killing. Most of these, there are some fibers and so on, and they will sort of pass out, well, you know where. And but the rest of it we can assimilate, and it can go on to live in our bodies. And in the future, we will go on and we can live only from fruit and also breathing. And when we eat fruit, it's just full of these life units. They are alive on the tree. We just pick an apple, we eat it, and they just continue to live in our body. So that's the best kind of nutrition for us. But so far, our bodies are not made for just eating fruit. So we also have to have some like bread and potatoes and so. Let's summarize a bit what Martinus says about food. We cannot tolerate meat and fish anymore. And our best food is plant food. And also fruit, and that is especially for the future. But we can start eating a lot of fruit already today. That's not a problem, but we can't live on it alone. And when it comes to things like potatoes and bread and so, it's better that it's cooked and baked, and so that's easier for us to digest it. But when it comes to fruit, we shouldn't cook it. It gets a lower level of energy and life if we cook it. So fruit and berries are best for us to eat raw. Martinus also says that milk and egg can be a transitional food for new vegetarians. So if you have been a meat eater for all your life and then you want to become a vegetarian, you can also have a period where you use milk and egg. And they are also very easily assimilated into the body, because milk and egg is actually food for babies. So it's made in a way that it doesn't need a lot of digestion. How long is a transitional period? I don't know. That's very individual, because people are very different. Someone might have been a vegetarian for many years, and when he or she comes into this lifetime, it's very easy to become a vegetarian again. And other people might, it might be the first time they try to become a vegetarian, and then it can be hard work. And then, of course, this period must be longer. So it's a very individual thing. And Martinus also stresses that we can cook food to simplify digestion. And we all have to be a kind of food scientist, in a way that we must look into ourselves and see, what can I eat? What can I tolerate? What is good for me? When I eat this and that, my stomach doesn't feel good. Well, maybe I should drop that and try something else. So we must all try and see what's good for our bodies. And we must also train our sense of taste. So the more I eat fruit, the more I will like it. And I read once that psychologists have tested that if you don't like something, you can eat it about 10 to 15 times, and then you will start liking it. So I actually tried that once when I was young. I was served olives, and I didn't like them at all because I hadn't eaten them when I was young. But then I tried it over and over again, and well, after a week or two, I really liked it, and now I love it. So we can train our taste buds. And Martinus stresses simple food. We don't have to buy all these books with complicated recipes and do the things that the chefs do. And so we can just make very simple food. That's the best for our body. And that will also train us to eat in a good way. And we will, step by step, start to really appreciate this simple food. So this is our future food. And Martinus even tells us that there will be new kinds of fruits in the future. So we won't have to cook. We will just go out and pick some fruits, and that will be enough for us. Don't try that now. We need more food right now. Well, scientists, they have so many different views on this in natural science, but some scientists have also come up with the same conclusion, actually. Here's just one example, nutritionfacts.org. It's an American site with Dr. Greger, and he and his team, they go through all kinds of nutrition, science on nutrition and different studies. And from doing that, they have just come to the conclusion that a plant-based diet is the best diet for you. And they say that it reduces all kinds of diseases like cancer and heart diseases and inflammations and so on. And it can actually give us all the nutrition we need, except for the vitamin B12, which has to be taken as a supplement. And here is just one recommendation they have. As I said before, we have to find out for ourselves what's the best food for us. So there are many scientists out there, but it's interesting that science slowly is moving towards understanding the benefits of plant-based food. Let's move a little bit into the spiral cycles. Here are we at this level, and we have the organs. Jumping here. Organs and cells and molecules and so on. So, and we can get even further down into the atomic particles. And when we go really deep down into the spiral cycles, we cannot detect any longer from our level that it's a kind of matter. So we say that it's electricity and magnetism. But it's actually at that level that we find our thoughts. So our thoughts and our feelings, they are built up from something. They are built up from matter, but that matter from our perspective seems to be electricity. So quite often I think people just ignore thoughts. Thoughts are nothing. It doesn't matter what you think, but it actually matters a lot. All our thoughts and our feelings, they go through our body and they magnetize our blood. And they are very important to our well-being. So they affect our body both in a positive and negative way. And Martinus says that all diseases are, in a way, electrical short circuits. It's like an electrical catastrophe, we could say. And that comes from not having control of our minds. And these short circuits will also create imbalances in our organs and functions of our body. And for example, he says, selfish thoughts, they can be a poison to the body. That's quite strong. We know that drugs can be poisons, but thoughts can also be a poison. And he said, says individualism and capitalism create diseases. And then we can understand that our society that we have today in itself, with the economies and the way we work and all the stress and so on, that will create diseases. So in order to create well-being for every person on this planet, we also need a new kind of society built on love and, well, totally other things than capitalism. But that's a bit ahead of us. But we also have to understand that many people, they get all kinds of problems, anxiety and depression and so on, because of the society we have. And at one place, Martinus says, being unkind to your neighbor is a serious cause of disease. So we can see that there are many things that affect our body. And loving thoughts create life force that give us immunity to diseases. We might think that we can get immunity by getting a vaccine shot or something like that. And of course, it can help for a while, but it doesn't get to the root of our problems. That is that we must change from within. So this is what a perfectly healthy body looks like. And we can see that the different basic energies, they are placed at different parts of this body. And they sort of control different parts of the body. We can see intelligence with the brain, feeling in the heart, gravity in the stomach. We have intuition in the genitals. It's also a new center in the brain. And memory, that has to do with the mineral content of the body, like skeleton and hair, and instinct. It controls and it helps skin, muscles, and tendons. So when we have perfect loving thoughts, when we live in a loving way, then our body looks like that. But we are not really there. So when we are out of balance, all these energies, they mix together, and it affects the organs so they cannot function in the right way any longer. And we can see here that green and blue intelligence and intuition, they have mixed, and also the energy, gravity, and feeling. So Martinus says, the absolutely healthy spiritual nourishment for the human being is all unselfish kinds of thoughts. They are physically and mentally life-giving to the same extent as the selfish kinds of thoughts are physically and mentally deadly for the human being. Most internal organic and chronic illnesses stem from mistaken and thereby poisonous kinds of thoughts. And we will look into 2 examples of this. So here is when the energy of gravity, that is supposed to be in our stomach. That's the energy that is warm and hot, and we need it here for our digestion. What happens when it comes into our sphere of feeling, when it goes into the heart and the lung? Well, that can happen when we are angry. We have so much anger that it presses up and comes into the lungs and the heart. Also, if we are critical and dissatisfied and we are always, oh, it's so bad and so on. If we're going around with that, we might, what happens is this gravity is coming into the heart and the lungs. And that can create, for example, heart diseases and pneumonia. And we can understand here, because heart diseases, that is what most people die from in the Western culture, in the Western countries. And that is part of it is because of the anger, the violence, and the kind of thoughts we have. And we can see that when we have this intrusion here, the small life units, they catch fire, and it's like a catastrophe for the microbeings, and it creates inflammation. Not inflation, that's something else. And then we have the other way around. Here we have the energy of feeling that should be kept here at the heart. It's going down into our stomach instead. And that can happen when we are very sad, we are stressed, we are worried about different things. And also we have anxiety. We might have a guilty conscience. And of course, this also happens to so many people today. And there are also so many people today who have problems with their stomach and their digestion. But then you might ask, should we suppress those feelings? No, of course not. It's not a solution to suppress them. But once we feel that we have these feelings, we must also bring in some intelligence to balance the feeling. So the feeling is not sort of just taking over everything in our lives. A guilty conscience is very good, but we should have it as an alarm clock. It sort of wakes us up. Okay, there is something I did wrong. Maybe I can do it right again. But if we're just walking on and feeling I'm guilty, I'm guilty, I'm guilty, well, then we might have different diseases like ulcers and inflammation in the stomach area. Can we do something to heal ourselves? Well, we can go to the doctor, we can have surgery and so on. But as I said before, that might not be enough, because it's not getting to the root of the disease. But if a person has problems, then I can go to that person. I can talk, and I can help, and I can have loving thoughts. And in the same way, we can also send love to our microbeings. And I like this quote here, and I will read it here. It is therefore not enough to go to the doctor, undergo surgery, or otherwise submit to physical treatment for a particular illness. one must to the very greatest extent send as loving thoughts or sympathetic vibration as possible to the diseased areas. And at the same time, command all foreign and disease-promoting matter to leave the area. So we can send love, but we can also say to go away to that energy that is wrong, that shouldn't be there. Or he says even command. And he goes on, if you can train yourself to control your microorganism in this way, you can achieve an absolutely healthy organism and the resulting physical and bodily well-being. And it's from an article, The Power of Will. It's not translated into English yet, but it will be in the future. So let's look at some examples from, not from Martinus, but from other parts of the world. There is an American scientist, Kelly A. Turner. She has done a lot of research on cancer, and she was a bit surprised that there is so much research on why do people get cancer, how can you cure it, and what pills and what treatments and so on. But there were also what she called radical remission, when people unexpectedly just got healthy again. The cancer went away. And she thought, why did that happen? And the doctors just said, we don't know. It just happens sometimes. Have you asked them if they did something? No. So she went around the world and she interviewed more than, I think, 1,500 people who had had this experience of radical remission of cancer. And she asked them, what did you do to get healthy? And they told her lots and lots of things. But she compiled a list of 10 factors that she could see all over and over again that people told her. And the first thing was that they have changed their diet. They have stopped eating meat, they stopped with milk products, with wheat, and they were eating lots more vegetables and fruits. Another thing they did was to take control of their health. They didn't just go to the doctor and think the doctors must take control. No, they thought, I can do something. I will try my best. I'm in control of my health. And that also changed something. And they also followed what they say was their intuition or maybe gut feeling, but they were listening within and probably also listening to their microbeings and also maybe getting into contact with their bodies to see what the body needed. Most of them were using herbs and supplements, especially to strengthen the immune system. And they were also doing different therapies to release emotions, especially to release the fear. If you have cancer, you get afraid of dying. You have all kinds of fear of losing that the kids will lose their mother or father or something. So it was very important to have emotional therapy. And they also try to increase positive emotions, maybe do visualizations and affirmations and mental training. And they try to have as much support as possible from friends and families, and so which could bring good support to them. And she also found that they had a meaning of life. Those who had this radical remission thought that it was meaningful for them to live, and they really could appreciate their lives. Most of them also had some kind of spiritual or religious connection. Maybe they started praying, started meditating, something like that. and she has also added exercise and movement. So we can see that all of this is very much according to what Martinus says. So it was not just by pure chance that these people could heal from cancer. It was actually something they were doing. And we said also this about suppressed emotions. So it is important to work with your fear. And Martinus says this about fear. The true and absolute cause of fear is spiritual or cosmic ignorance. Therefore, fear cannot be combated with force and power, but on the contrary, exclusively with cosmic knowledge. Only absolute cosmic knowledge gives the same degree of unshakable trust. So knowing that we are eternal beings, knowing who we are and what we are going towards and so on, all of this will help us release the fear. And that is very difficult to do without having this spiritual knowledge. I will actually jump the next one because I won't have time for it. But I will talk a little bit about spiritual therapy. And because many people who come here, they ask, didn't Martinus advise us to meditate or to train or to do any practical spiritual things? Some problems? No? Okay. And people are a bit surprised that we don't have prayers together and things like that. But Martinus, he saw that our evolution, it goes through our own experiences. And it's not something we cannot sit down and just think, love, 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 and then it will happen just from itself. We had to train it in everyday life. But things we can do, he recommends, is to review the day and the evening, that we think through what have I been through. Well, maybe I got irritated. Can I forgive that person? We sort of release what has happened during the day. So then we can go into our sleep and we can get higher up into the spiritual world if we don't have that bag with anger or whatever we experience during the day. And of course, sleeping is so important for us, because when we sleep, then the electricity is a bit switched off in our bodies, and then the body can repair the nervous system. So without sleeping, we will actually go crazy, but just from sleeping bad, we will in the end catch diseases, he says. So he also recommends us from getting away from the victim role, not feeling that we are a martyr or that, we are just blaming the others. It's because of the politicians, it's because of my father, it's because of the school, it's because of the bad weather. There is always something out that makes my life miserable. So actually, Martinus says that if we are carrying a lot of bitterness, that can in the end create cancer in our bodies. So it's very important for us with the cosmic science, where we can understand that we are ourselves the root of all the problems we encounter. So we can work on forgiveness and gratitude, and we know that people who are depressed, for example, if they start working on gratitude, start giving thanks for everything, then they cannot hold on to the depression. It can sort of cure at least a mild depression. We can also study spirituality. Sometimes I wonder why I see the same people here at Klint every year. Didn't you get it last year? But, well, we did. I got it last year, but I have to be reminded over and over again, because I have trained my animal side so much, and now we must train the other side. So it is very good for us to hear things, to study it again, to talk with other people, and remind us of the world picture that we actually already know, maybe. And of course, then spiritual therapy, prayer. We can always pray to God, and we can always pray for help when it comes to our bodies and problems, mental problems, and so. And then, of course, there is the highest yoga. If you really want to practice, Martinus says, what is the highest yoga? That is sending loving thoughts to your enemies, to someone you have problems with. Maybe you don't have an enemy, but you might be irritated with someone, or there is always that person at work who is doing the things in the wrong way or something like that. And then you can send loving thoughts to that person and light. And the first time you do that, you will be able to do it for 10 seconds or something like that. And then you will start thinking about, what I'm having for dinner tonight. So there will be some other instincts taking over. But the more we do that, the more we learn to really hold that love and light in our minds. So it is good training. We will take another example from the big world, and that is what is called the blue zones. So blue zones are areas in the world where scientists have noticed that people get very old. There are many people who are more than 100 years old, and they also stay very healthy and work in their gardens when they're 100 years old and so. And they have looked at these different places, and there are many small blue zones. There are also blue zones in Sweden and Denmark and so on. So you can look that up if you're interested, and maybe in other countries. But scientists have looked a bit into this and see how do people live in these areas? How can they stay alive for such a long time? And these scientists, they say that it should be normal for a person to get to the age of 90. They think that would be a normal life age for us. And then if we have good genes, we could live until we get 100 or something like that. But they have seen that these people, they are all moderate. They use moderate physical activity. They don't run marathons. They don't go to the gym. But they work in the fields. They walk when they are going to meet a friend. And they do physical things in their everyday life. Exactly as Martinus said. He says it's enough to go for a brisk walk. You don't have to run or train your muscles so much. They also have a purpose in life, and we recognize that from the other list with the cancer treatments. So they see there is a meaning in their life. And they all had some kind of means for stress reduction during the day. So maybe they just took a nap in the afternoon, or maybe they had a time for prayer or meditation, depending on where they live on the planet. But some kind of way to sit down and stop your activity and concentrate and just relax. And one thing they all have in common is that they don't eat so much. So in Okinawa, where they first found these blue zones, they have a saying there that you shouldn't eat until you're full. You should eat like 80% or something like that. So, of course, today we have so much food, but in the past we didn't have a lot of food. So as soon as there was some food, of course, we had to eat it to keep alive. So it's an instinct we have to eat as much as possible. But we all know that that's not a very good instinct to follow nowadays. So not eating too much was also a common feature for these people. Their diets were mostly plant-based. They were eating meat maybe a couple of times a month or something like that, but they got most of the protein from beans. So meat was more for parties and so. And they could also find spirituality or religion, and family life and community life. To be part of a group was also very important. In Okinawa, they have these kind of groups of friends. They form already when they are at school. They form a group, and then they stick to that group all through their lifetimes. So they have that group of very close friends who support them throughout their lives. And you could see that that's really important. So it doesn't have to be a family in a biological sense. It can be friends. And maybe in the future it will be more like we sort of build up our own families. Well, so we can see that all of this is also supported by the ideas of Martinus in a way. So if we follow this, the scientists say we will become 90, maybe 100. So there are many ways that we can communicate with our body. So that is our way forward now, to listen to our body, to respond to our body, and to more and more learn to have a loving ways and to treat our body in a loving way, because there are millions and millions of microbeings. We might be very concerned for the people on the planet right now who are starving or who are at war and so on. But maybe we are ourselves creating wars in our bodies from the way we eat and drink and think. So it's a huge field for us to work on, really, to be friends with our microbeings. And Martinus says we can be our own greatest healing factor. There is no one who can come and heal us. We have to do it from within. We must listen to our body, and we must become friends with our microbeings. And we know that's many areas we can work on. And of course, also the cosmic knowledge. And then we have to be kind to ourselves. We have to recognize that it's a difficult process. It's a step-by-step process, and we have so many instincts, and we will all commit faults. And we can be grateful for that. We can be grateful to diseases, discomfort, all the things that go wrong, because they give us the possibility to start on another road, to start on the right road, we could say. So accept life as it is and be happy for what we meet. And then, of course, we can always use prayer. So, of course, it might look like a sunset when the body is deteriorating and we're getting sick and ill and everything is bad. But it is a way that we will change. And the more loving we can be towards ourselves and the more accepting we can be towards what's happening, we are already on the right track. And the right track is a sunset for our bodies, because when we become friends with our bodies and with our microbeings, we will be able to create a perfectly healthy body. Thank you for listening.